All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Something different. Maybe if you're still doing the audio, you probably won't notice. But yes, this is the first video episode of Foxtrotting and a Foxhole as we are converting to video and audio for all platforms. We're going to start this with season 11, but I figured we might as well start with the penultimate episode of season 10, which is season 10, episode 30, number 319 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you from Eagles Nest 2, Studio B, on a spectacular Sunday. Apologize for getting this late in the week, but yeah, this switched to video. A little bit more complicated than I anticipated. No worries there. It's been fun, but nonetheless, a lot to learn. So definitely bear with me. I'm sure there's going to be lots of moments in this episode where there's some hiccups while we still figure it out. But I'm like one of these guys, I just hop in there and fix it along the way. All right, folks. As always, we thank all the wonderful folks like Rode, Zoom, Pretensik, gear makers left and right. Too many folks to mention as always. Bless you all. You want to be part of the Foxhole experience, whether that's the scene, this, or Aftershocks, FTINFX at gmail.com, 541-525-0896. Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Sponsor us, anything like that. Please like and subscribe to FTINFX Media's YouTube channel. We can definitely and always need the engagement. And tell your friends to do so as well. Doesn't cost you anything and you won't get harassed. You'll just be helping a brother whose algorithm needs the help. All right. Open face time. Where do we start here? Late in the week, and I'm all out of sorts. So I just figured we'll just kind of freestyle and see what we come up with for an episode. We'll start off with the White House. A lot to talk about there. Obviously, we alluded to a great deal of it in Aftershocks. But with the Knicks winning, because by now you know the Knicks are proud champions, first time since 1973. And the conversation came up whether or not they would visit fan and current sitting president Donald J. Trump, number 47. And the Knicks, unlike the Seahawks, who apparently have tabled, using some mealy-mouthed kind of language as to why they're not going, at least that's the last I heard it. Haven't had a chance to really follow up. But the Knicks, and that says a lot, given Gotham, that they are going to. But then again, because, Trump has some bona fides as a Knicks fan, I can definitely see why, especially with Dolan. I'll be curious to see if they all show up or whether a couple of people will decide to sit it out. Time will tell, right? You had Trump making all kinds of moves. I mean, obviously the brawl on the lawn, a lot to say about that. Bring that up, I think, in the next segment. But I just think it's interesting. Okay, he is a sitting head of state. The World Cup is being held in his country. And so, let's put it this way. If it was in France and Macron and his wife were lifting the trophy, would you all be saying anything? If Biden and he was able, you all would be like, oh, quit your bitching and moaning. Remember, I have no dog in the fight. I am an independent, proud. I hate both parties. But as an independent, I just sit there and wonder, you're getting sand in your favorite parts over this guy having another photo op and being the publicity hound and attention hound that he's always been? You're angry about that. We know how this will go over, but did you think he wasn't when he was when it came to hamming it up here because he feels the reason why this is going to be a successful event is because of him. Whether that's true or not, well, I'll let that be up for you to decide. And my man James Harden taking a gun charge. I don't know what to believe with this because you know how the apologists in the media, especially the jocks, talking about protection and all this other stuff. And I think the kind of money you make, just have a security detail. What the F were you doing dealing with a charge? Be like you're Snoop and Chris. Having to go in front of, now that's right, because she moved up, Ronnie. And having to see her working your way out of that kind of nonsense. Come on, brah. Jeez. I mean, yeah, like you're not gonna get in serious trouble for this, but still, it's just the level of why when you could avoid it. I don't know. You tell me. I haven't heard a lot about this. I think this was probably, I don't know, 8, 9 days ago, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because there's just so much going on with the World Cup and the U.S. Open and other big events. But it's Pat McAfee. Yes, that Pat McAfee. Is he really going to get a $60 million a year deal from ESPN? Now, I admit, I'm tired of ESPN. I mean, I can watch SportsCenter, depending on who it is, at night, and that's about it. If I'm thinking about it, I'll watch Tony and Mike. If I'm not too lazy to trim the channel from First Things First overtime. So, yeah, I hate the $60 million. I mean, I guess if that means he becomes the face of ESPN as opposed to Stephen A. Smith. Hey, man, stop hating on the brother. Oh, come on, y'all can't stand that, I don't know, minstrel show that he's got going on. I guess I can get behind it, but $60 million? I've watched this show. And so have you. And there's all kinds of weird stuff going on, right? This whole thing with Levitar basically saying, yes, I got to take Stu Gotts off the name. And, they're having their little bitch battle, whatever it is. And it's got public and it's spilling out into the lawn and into the suburbs. 60 million, man. 60 million. A year. Okay, then. I wish my folks would have trained me early. I wouldn't have been getting that kind of scratch, but I'd probably get something. I like this one, though. Terry Bradshaw. Yeah. Number 12. Sorry, Big Ben. Greatest Steeler quarterback all time. Wait a minute, times 4. At 77, he says, I ain't going nowhere. If I am, it's going to be on them. And this is what we were talking about last week when it comes to CTE. Even though there are more than once in recent years where I have wondered if Mr. Bradshaw has all of his marbles, and sometimes I worry about him up there. But he says, like the Energizer Bunny, I'm going to keep on ticking. And we like that. Especially us old school folks. Us old heads. So good for you, Terry. Boy, I was kind of surprised by this. And I know that I guess it's been a long time in the making for all you hockey fans, especially you Canucks. Hockey Night is leaving CBC after being on that network for 7 decades. Not 1, not 2, but 7 decades. Times are changing with everything when it comes to how we get our content. And to see a staple like that, even though it was kind of, I don't know, what do you say, kind of more of a token that they were still a token relationship that they were still allowed to, be able to show the content. But after 7 decades, sayonara. What else do we got? Oh, the big three. I brought the big three up, and I'm not talking about Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill. I'm talking about Ice Cube's big three, which I told you last week they were offering some stock up. Well, I guess they have found a new television partner, Fubo, which is right on, I guess. If there's somebody willing to pay for that content, bully for you. I know I've tried to watch it in its existence, and it has no appeal. But I'd rather watch my girl HVL and those girls do the 3-on-3, and that's almost like watching paint dry. Yeah. Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, something that's really been at the forefront of the culture. This whole thing of Carmelo Anthony. Not the basketball player, but the now 19-year-old who is incarcerated in Texas. If you know the story, how he got into it with Austin Metcalf at a track meet that he wasn't supposed to be at, apparently. It was raining, went into a tent. They told him to leave. He got shoved. He pulled out a knife and apparently stabbed Mr. Metcalf. And in the ensuing moment, we have another racial cause celebre. And where the race baiters, hustlers, a-holes, and other freakazoids have been losing their minds. And for me, it's just another notch in a world gone mad. You hear Jasmine Crockett. How she got elected in the first place is beyond me. When you hear some of the idiotic things coming out of her mouth trying to defend this guy. And even most of the folks, racial ideology or not, come on, man. This ain't no self-defense nonsense. Stop it! Race betas and hustlers. Shame on you. Content before everything. Oh, man. So let's lighten it up here, because too many people are talking about this Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, and building their content over this dead kid and this kid that's going to spend the next 35 years on ice. Ugh. But we can talk about my buddies and yours, Megan R. That Megan R. Miss Rapinoe. With you and Sue not together anymore and you not playing soccer, kind of hard to get some attention. So, yeah, why don't you shock everybody by saying water breaks, the hydration breaks that y'all have been complaining about, they're antithetical to the game. Woo-hoo-hoo. Obviously, in a world that you were a part of that became more corporate, I would think you would see that. So you're not really seeing anything profound other than as anybody else is bitching and moaning about it. You just to bitch about something and not understand that they stand on business, yo. I don't like it. I just know that's what it is. How about Top Golf, which looked to be a wonderful social outlet, fun night out with the boys and girls, it was going to be arranged. Well, it's obviously been stumbling, and I hear that it has lost over $1 billion in valuation. Translation, you ain't going to be around for long. I should have known the writing was on the wall back in I was playing Golf Plus heavily. I haven't been really playing Golf Plus much because I'm trying to protect my feet. But when they terminated their partnership with Top Golf, should have known, because Golf Plus is continuing to flourish. Top Golf, not so much. All right, folks, we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we will do the high view above campus. See you momentarily. All right, then. Make sure we're all going here. Yeah, I said we're still working out some stuff, but we're having a lot of fun with the new workflow. And it's really cool to be able to finally do this with video. So we'll keep the audio for the folks who have been listening religiously on Spotify for years. Do a little work there to keep that going, but it also would be nice to add this to the video profile along with the aftershocks. Still be doing more of the interviewee type of stuff that I think we're going to get into more. I've got some really good stuff there. Obviously, the scene is interview based, but this kind of will be more sports. But won't be surprised, sports talk, but don't be surprised if you get a little more of some surprises. We'll just leave it at that in terms of what might be happening with this platform as we move into season 11. Blah 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 blah. All right. Well. I just have to look over to make sure everything's okay in alignment because my monitor's over here. Let's get the homies and homettes together on a Sunday night. And let's get over to the Eugene airport. Right, as we called our Uber. We got our adult bevs. Got ourselves, one of those nice little snacks from one of the food carts that's still open on a Sunday evening. We're going to boogie on through TSA like we're Marky Mark and Boogie Nights. High-fiving and fist bumping all the way until we get to the tarmac. Where on this longest day of the year, our shimmering Gulfstream 650 or G650 awaits us to get us to our cruising altitude of 43,000 feet, where we take the high view over the campuses of America. Well, we had graduation last week, as we said at that point. Props to the grads. Tough world out there, so all the best wishes. You're competing with a lot of folks out there, but hey, if you got game, you'll make it happen. And if you don't, you'll find a way to survive, or life will suck. That's just the way things go. I know, terrible, aren't we? Ooh, man. I will say this. Let me go down here, because we are kind of out of the order. This time of year is interesting when it comes to college sports. Things slow down, and I think in the weeks to come, you'll probably see this thing slide down as it was opposed to, but because I'm so jacked up at doing video, I forgot that it was further down in the outline. Doesn't matter. Right now, tying the bow on the 25-26 school year, we've got the Men's College World Series taking place in Omaha. And we're getting our money's worth to close out this fine year with the Tar Heels and the Sooners, both worthy fan bases, split the first two games. So we will decide this tomorrow. We'll be talking about that on Aftershocks. I just got to clear the bandwidth so I can actually watch. Okay, so the big thing that's really going on right now is the college sports bill apparently is heading to the Senate for a full vote. Stay tuned, y'all. Stay tuned. We've been speaking about this for a bit. We think the Sorsby season in hell or spring in hell has created enough apprehension and, let's say, aggression to get something done. What that is remains to be seen. You have a cadre of folks who believe this is it. You have a bunch of other folks like the Heather Dinnages, Feinbaum, the Big Ten and the SEC are like, no, homie, if this is really what we want. I mean, the fact that the two biggest conferences are lukewarm at best as far as seeing this pass. So, while there might not be a lot going on as far as campus is concerned, the competition wise, especially after the CWS wraps up. On the Hill and in the courtrooms, this might be a summer to remember. Because we have lots of people at this point who feel like we have reached the end of days with the way this whole Sorsby thing pretty much ripped the veneer off of many things as far as college sports and what can be enforced, what rules are there, and what structure is there as we move forward. We've been talking about this for the last 6 years since we've been doing this particular podcast, Foxtrotting in a Foxhole, about getting to a new normal. Well, that new normal, a lot of molehills, a lot of, Kubu ice falls, if you know about climbing Everest. A lot of things in the way of getting to what should be the new normal, because what this is isn't normal. It's kind of new now, but it ain't the new normal. Also, we talked about this last week as well. No shock here. The clock is ticking as far as Project 24 is concerned. No, not. No, man. No, whatever that project was called that all the liberals were wigging out over, where they said that when Trump got elected was going to turn the country into the complete S show. Kind of is that way, anyways, but not the way they envisioned with whatever it was, Project 2025 or whatever it was called. But Project 24 is basically the move to a 24 playoff, and I think D-Day for this is 12-1. And they would like to have something firmed up beforehand. I get the feeling it may get tabled. It's going to happen one way or the other. It ain't going to be 16. It's going to be 24. But I do believe they're just like, we got to figure this out. So the big boys have their own training table, but everybody else gets to eat too. I think we're still clarifying that along with 108 other different things. Fair to say? And there's fallout from this indecision. Sark, my man down in Austin at UTA, University of Texas at Austin, basically saying we may have to back out of the home away series we've currently got going with Notre Dame because without a 2014 playoff, we may not have the incentive to play the game with Notre Dame because it may hurt us. And that whole normal thing y'all were talking about was supposed to give us more matchups. Then you hear bull jive like this. Ooh, somebody got in trouble when you hear the trigger siren. Wow. I mean, it was quite the week, though, wasn't it? You tack on this whole mess with Sorsby. Nobody's really sure after that missile strike hit the college landscape, what the true fallout is, how to move forward. I mean, but you got to ask yourself when it comes to Texas Tech or Texas Rec. Was the stink? Shame? Was it all worth this to protect this roster to win a natty? To show yourself to be a hoe on this level? Be a hoe with no shame? Yeah, right. I know it's wild too, guys. Everybody's pulling the Sergeant Schultz. You know, if you're old school, you know Hogan's Hero. I know nothing. In Cincinnati, oh, we knew nothing about Sorsby's gambling. British Petroleum. You guys have all got operatives. No one thinks their girlfriend and their mama don't know. And mama know everything. And girlfriend know just about everything else. Oh, man. And you've got, gosh, this kid from Iona. What's his name? Adam Injire? Ruled ineligible. What for? Point shaving. And you mofos that don't want to pass a law that may have some teeth that could possibly levy harsh penalties for this bullshit. Shame on you. Shame on you. Then we go to East Lansing. What's going on in East Lansing again? Tom Izzo. Yeah, that Tom Izzo. He not happy. There's been a lot that's gone on with that particular institution. You know, obviously kicking Jonathan Smith to the curb, trouble with the AD, trouble with the boosters. And obviously, Izzo, a very respected, decorated, one of the pillars of the sport, fair to say. He's really cranky. But notice he ain't leaving Sparty. So I don't know what they're going to do to placate him. But I think why I bring it up, because it's just kind of a harbinger of things to come as far as some of these iconic coaches and the realities of what college sports are going to be in the 2030s, especially if we don't find a way to check this caboose that is chugging down the tracks at backbreak speed. Man. Lastly, let's give a shout out to the UGA women, huh? Back-to-back titles. Some pretty solid performances there. The NCAA's making their stop in Eugene and whatnot. Yeah. Is that everything that we have? I think so. Like I said, I'm really curious about this bill. I know people being very cynical, being very skeptical. Why shouldn't they be? But, gee whiz, if we don't have this, the amount of litigation and the amount of bull jive that the ambulance chasers will try to come up with, because after all, when you're chasing that bag of cash, like Flo J's mom said, we want to live right. We gonna get that bag of cash. Okay, folks, I'm going to move away. We'll be back here in about a half a minute or so, keeping it going. All right. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Kid Harlan here, ice cold chilling like Carvicha Carvichkelia. Yeah, but no hey, Carvicha's really chilling because no World Cup for Georgia. Can't wait to see that guy on the pitch again. Enjoyable World Cup. Can't wait to talk about that when we get to the beautiful game live. But in the meantime, let's cold chill here for a minute. Like kicking it here in Eagles Nest B. Eagles Nest 2 Studio B, excuse me. Yeah, we're negotiating our way back into Studio A, or even possibly going to the Tiny and doing some recording. That's been offered up, so we'll have to weigh our options now that we're in the video space, and we're gonna really try to optimize this and make this top notch. Okay. Time for one of our favorite segments of the Foxtrotting and the Foxhole podcast. Something you should probably know. No. Or things that happened this past week in the world of sports you might want to know. Or actually care about, depending on your mood. Well, obviously, the brawl on the lawn. That was kind of the story to start the week. We talked about it in Aftershocks. And clearly there's still a lot of residual to talk about. I mean, obviously this guy, Josh Hockett, got his 15 minutes of fame, maybe 30, because he attacked former First Lady Michelle Obama by calling him a man. Shame on you folks that thought it was cool and funny. You could have just said nothing. Because if you did, yeah, it's kind of classless. And you're not going to be able to convince me, well, they called Melania a slut. And that's not cool either. One turd doesn't make the other turd smell better, does it? Well, maybe y'all's, well, maybe it does. I don't know. I ain't picking at anybody. I'm just saying, like, hey. I just was so ridiculous. And what otherwise was pretty cool, as I said on Aftershocks. Everybody I've talked to said, yeah, you know, some of the best cards they've seen in years. In fact, Mr. Hurley was so fired up, he now wants to have a Duke game on the lawn under the claw. Go figure. I mean, 7 million viewers tuned in. Hey, pardon me, I'm having trouble with my words already. And it's Sunday night. 7 million viewers, which I think is pretty impressive. Not ridiculous. I mean, what? Was Dana White talking, hey, man, we got Super Bowl numbers. UFC ain't Super Bowl kind of entertainment. Y'all got a crowd. Very loyal, very boisterous, even in these rough times, without a lack of star power. But Super Bowl numbers, come on, Dana. Put down that good since you've been smoking. How about Lewis Hamilton? Is he dating Kim Kardashian? And maybe, you know, that booty got the magic flowing because he was at the top of the podium, winning in Spain. Crazy. Validating Ferrari's trust in him. Good for him. Thing is, yeah, Verstappen actually had a good finish. But everything's so upside down. Got the 19-year-old dominating, Lando and Piastri kind of not really being in the equation. I mean, it's really weird, isn't it? I know me. I keep teasing it, but yeah. Somehow I need to get like a little refresher from the corner man because I need somebody to make sense from things. I haven't had a chance to unpack everything today. Obviously, I've been trying to get this going. So don't worry if I miss anything. It'll definitely be an Aftershocks. What will that be? Like number 50, yeah, our 50th episode of Aftershocks is coming up. Maybe there'll be something cool for that. And by the way, apologize for the timetable as far as getting the stuff out there. It's probably going to be that way for the next week or two. We got a lot of cool stuff going on behind the curtain. And so, yeah. And when we distribute the content, might even be altered a little bit here. Everything's on the table. Anyways, kudos to Lewis Hamilton. Also, props to Denny Hamlin last week. What was that, like his third straight in a row? Yeah, all that talk about Jordan dominating the sport. Where you all be? Jordan gonna change the face of NASCAR. That crowd ain't had much to say lately, now has it? Yeah. Crickets like that. Okay. So I kind of waited to do this also because I wanted to see how all the soccer matches played out in the World Cup and also the U.S. Open, the third major, and the I don't know, I think the biggest test of endurance. And this edition being no different. Even though former Duck, Mr. Clark, Wyndham Clark, wire to wire in the end. But boy, it got dicey on the way out. I thought he was going to choke it away. I was sitting there looking at Scotty, who's about 3 back at the turn. I'm like, dude, make your move. But it being Shinnecock and it being the U.S. Open, homie had a 73 on the way out, but it was enough to hold off Sam Burns by 1 stroke. So I forget, when it comes to winning your first 2 majors as U.S. Opens, I think it's only like maybe 4 or 5 people that have ever done that. Yeah, I know, pretty wild, huh? But hey, wire to wire, good for him, former Duck. Yeah. We'll break down more about the U.S. Open probably in Aftershocks. I said, just literally got over with and haven't had enough time to really like make some bullet points. But hey, we're freestyling over here. Speaking of Tiger, every time I see his former running mate at Stanford on the NBC telecast, what's his no top a gay? I was just laughing, thinking about Tiger, how prosecutors are not giving him a free lunch. They're basically just saying, yo, bro, we want those records. We want to see what you've been up to. Now, I'm sure Trump will find a way to pardon him, so he doesn't have to do jail time. But as I said last week, when it comes to Tiger and Phil, this is not the way 2 icons like that should be going out. But it is. Cool that, I guess, Serena and Miss Venus are going to be playing doubles at Wimbledon. So all you folks out there that can't get enough of the Williams sisters, you're getting another moment, and that's not a bad thing. Now, is it? I think this is always interesting because there's been so many great track and field performances of late. That's one of the cool things about my brother, Jeff, who's a huge track and field aficionado. He always will like send me all these, blurbs of all these phenoms busting these times. Then he sent me one at some point last week where Noah Lyles, that Noah Lyles, sets a world record in the 150 meters. I think he ran, 14.87. And I think, where do you get a situation where we're having a 150 meter race? We have another 2-time world champion suspended. For what, you may ask? Doping. open. And you know why I always bring this up in this podcast. Because I don't trust anybody. Why would I? What the lady say in JFK? As crooked as a dog's hind leg? Now, I think there are some badasses out there in track and field. But the proponents of some of the things I'm seeing, I'm going to be suspicious. I'm going to always be suspicious. Come on now. Oh, gosh, I forgot to mention last week, my man Mondo Duplantis losing in the pole vault for the first time in 3 years. 3 years of bringing the can of kick butt on people. Props to you, Mr. Duplantis, for a hell of a streak. Okay. Let me put a bow on another year of UFL football. The league that apparently we can just get so much of, at least when it comes to the Foxhole. Well, you have the championship, the Defenders, which I guess if I had a team that I would root for, it would be them because of the connection with Redskin fans that have with that team. But they couldn't even defend their crown. As the Louisville Kings walk away with their first championship. So kudos to them. Real talk about this league. Somehow, it's gonna carry on. They're talking about places like Oklahoma City and other markets where they have a chance to have a following. Well, if somebody's willing to pay for it and the TV networks are willing to still show it, we know there's football junkies out there who think baseball is boring and can't lower themselves to watch the beautiful game live. Doesn't translate into what you see of the stadium in most places, but apparently some people have a stomach for watching it. So, if there are people out there who want to continue to dump money into this, who am I to tell them not to? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it looks like to me when you talk about the UFL's future. All right, folks, we will be back momentarily. All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' like Carvicha Carvachkelia. Had a little technical hiccup, as I knew I would. The first time doing this video, which I'm really psyched. So glad you're bearing with me and coming along for the ride. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah. This is just scratching the surface of what I think we can do here with some of the tools we're working with and a little ingenuity and some inspiration from wherever I can get it. Let's see where this goes. All right, let's talk a little beautiful game life, shall we? Yeah. The World Cup as I was saying earlier, this is so cool. Everyone living their best lives. I mean, sorry if you don't. Sorry if you sit there and bitch and moan about 0-0 ties or people in their booty shorts flopping and diving and you don't understand the offsides rule and you don't understand why there has to be hydration breaks. I don't know what I can do for you, okay? You're going to be cranky about most things if you can't find a way to enjoy one of the world's greatest parties. It's, as simple as that. And you do you. And we'll enjoy what has been a fantastic experience thus far. Fingers crossed. But all the gloom and doom coming into it about, oh my God, the Americans are going to F this up and blah, blah, blah. None of that's really materialized. All I'm seeing, people on the internet from different countries, just blown away. Food, cultural experiences. Canada and Mexico too. It's just been a vainglorious moment. And hopefully it stays that way. I mean, by the USA, we obviously went into this for months and months talking about what a pivotal moment it would be for this golden generation. And thus far they have delivered. Have they not? Winning the group. Doing what they're supposed to do. Validating hiring Pochettino. All these things are true. A lot of work to be done still. Because we can't be satisfied with just getting out of the group stage. Playing with house money. Gonna be tough, as everybody knows, and I think the grounded folks are telling you Americans, down boy, down boy. It's fun. But the thing is, until you out, anything's possible. And right now, if Pochettino plays his cards right, Turkey coming up, you get to rest the guys who are on yellow cards. CP10 gets a little more rest. Experiment, try some things out. Don't get too cute. But we cool. Man, it's just been a great tournament. I mean, a lot of great stories. Obviously, Tunisia telling their coach, get the hell out of Dodge. Didn't work, as they'll be leaving the tournament after the group stage. Man, you got Cape Verde and Spain. They've been a great story. Ivory Coast balling. Yeah. I mean, the tournament being 48 teams and you people who complain. These little nations having their moment. Even the match I just watched, watching Egypt get its first win with Mo Salah. It could have been New Zealand's first win. It's like Lee Zimmerman of Lee and Adam, Cascade Ace. It says it's about the stories. That's what's important. That's why this is so special. And you folks, sorry if you are enjoying it. Sorry, not sorry. No, I mean, the Netherlands, Japan, Belgium struggling, may not make it out of the group stage. Are you kidding me? Lots of storylines all over the place. We get Mexico beating South Korea. Not an easy task with my man, Sonny, in King Lee. Man, they took over 3 districts of LA, where LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office had to come in and restore order. Okay? 3 districts. Nobody got hurt. So I'm not here to call people thugs. But still, I was just like, wow. This is in the group stage. Imagine if they make a run, El Trey. The beautiful game life on full display. Be safe out there. Don't be doing dumbass shit, as General Andre would say. You get to see Neymar here soon, possibly. That's fantastic, man. But CR7, on the other side of it, catching all kinds of flack because all of a sudden he looks old when, as a team that's favored to win, kind of stumbles and doesn't look so impressive. Looking forward to seeing Portugal again. England, obviously. The Three Lions, their people are revved up, as they always are. Obviously, Messi having a hat trick. Leo. Yeah. What are you going to say? He's the GOAT, man. Throwing down a hat trick. These people talking about Caitlin Clark being the biggest thing in sports, or she should be. American exceptionalism. Weirdos. Bigger than Messi? Doing a World Cup? Where homies throwing down a hat trick? Just to say hello? I mentioned Mbappe just saying. I know it was so funny that people crumbing all over Mbappe, and like 2 minutes later, Mbappe just goes off. He ain't got UCL money, but I'm telling you, in the World Cup, he brings it. He was a goal-scoring machine in spite of what I or you think of him. I'm all getting into the action today. Watching Germany, and I see that Mr. Neuer, this will be his last World Cup. What a shift that guy has put in his career, club and career-wise. And of course, gotta love my girl, Lady Lowe, Rebecca Lowe. If you all watch the Premier League, you know Lady Lowe in her Crystal Palace. Great to see her doing the World Cup on Fox. And her trying to throw cold water on all this notion that Alexei, Mr. Henry, and Zlatan are not getting along. She just said, hey, man, we're putting on a show. And I know some people have problems with Fox, especially how they drop the ball, like in the first match, getting back to the action after the water breaks. I mean, people complaining about Alexei. You know, I get it to a certain point. He doesn't bother me like most. That's one thing. The other thing is when I hear from all these British fans of the beautiful game of life, and I think of how insufferable their commentators are when either the Three Lions or a Premier League team is playing in Champions League or Europa League. British Petroleum, when it comes to you complaining about Alexei, when y'all and your homerism and just blatant. Don't even get me started. I'd be here for the next hour. You know, I got nothing against Britain, but I will point that out. It's like, come on. Oh, and Scotland fans apparently drinking Boston Dry? Like Lee Zimmerman says, it's the stories, y'all. That's why this is such a beautiful thing. The sights and sounds. I mean, crap. Thomas Tuchel doing got the first pitch. Harry Kane taking pictures and autographs with Royals fans. Come on now. Mr. Haaland and the Norway team at the Stanley Cup acting like third graders with glee. What's there not to like about all this stuff? Lighten up, you haters. Okay. I mentioned CP10. You know, obviously dealing with an injury right now. The interesting thing about that is, and I know, people are always talking after 2-2. But apparently some folks are pushing the notion, as you know, that New York City Football Club, they're going to be unveiling the state-of-the-art stadium in Queens, near City Field and all that cool stuff over there in 2027. And word on the street is CP10 is going to be the face of that. I'm not so sure I'm buying into that. I think he's got some more time in Europe, especially since he's playing at a high level over there. I don't necessarily see this being the time. He could come over to MLS at the same age Carlos Belo did and still make an incredible impact, but I get it coming up the hills of a World Cup run where we don't really know where the USA is going to finish yet, but right now it looks good. So that is an interesting storyline to keep an eye on as we move further along in 2026. Okay, folks, we are churning and burning. When we return, we will come up with something funky. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Thanks for putting up with some of the technical shenanigans. We're still figuring out a lot of things, especially the sequencing. Pretty tough as a one-man production crew trying to navigate the lights, the sound, the pre and post production. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying bear with me as we try to make this buttery smooth. Okay, let's go to the Nightfall of Diamonds. As you know, when we do the Nightfall of Diamonds, we take a stroll on the hippie bus first. Dark Star crashes, that mirror shatters. Something about that seven side hallelujah hat track kind of stuff. Been really digging the 89 drops lately. Play Dead, obviously the streaming service that the Dead Nation has been putting out. I mean, a lot of this stuff we kind of had before, where they like get it in really crispy quality. I mean, there's like so much. It's like, would you ever get to it in 3 or 4 lifetimes? Who the hell knows? But I really love that in lieu of an actual tour, even though if you want to do DSO, J-Rad, Jerry's Middle Finger, Melvin and JG Bree, and the various slices of pie you can have, in a summer where McDonald's has brought back the crispy fried apple pie. What else is going on the hippie bus? I would say the Biscuits last weekend, kind of up and down as far as that little run they had in the Northeast. I know they played this weekend. Haven't had time to watch it, but hopefully after I get this all done and edited, I'll do that late night with the cans. But that last weekend, the 2 shows I did watch, kind of sloppy. I can't sit there and tell you, oh my God, this is must-see Biscuits, because it wasn't. I mean, if we're keeping it real at 100%, I think Marlon is doing a fantastic job fitting in, but I think the others doing Biscuits things that they've been known to do in the past. This is why we like them, because they're F-ups and they emulate who we are in a lot of ways. Trey doing his acoustic thing, keeping the Fish kids happy, like I think I was saying last week. playing with the orchestras and all that kind of stuff, doing that kind of cool elder statesman thing that Trey is so good at. And who's going to say anything about Ernie? Come on. Anything else going on hippie wise? Oh man, really feel bad about the news coming out of Madison Square Garden last night. Goose playing 2 nights, sold out run at the Garden, still feeling the cosmic dust from the Knicks and their heroic run. But somebody, I don't know what the circumstances are, it made national news. Fell from like 50 feet. They were up in the 300s, and I've been up there before for Fish New Year's. I don't know how you end up taking a fall. I'm not passing judgment here. But man, and he was with his wife, so a horrible story. My condolences go out to her, and if they had any offspring and anything like that, and close friends. Not the way you want to go see an epic show, summertime MSG in the Mecca. Really horrible stuff. All right, folks, let's park the hippie bus. The dark star eventually fades away for the night before it makes its reappearance in the next episode. This talks a real Nightfall of Diamonds. Well, I'm trying to get a handle on what's going on as far as the CBA is concerned. I mean, obviously, the salary cap is a major talking point, but now I guess the whole thing of instituting a real international draft to sort of govern all these badasses that come from Asia and Latin America, kind of more of an emphasis, trying to go away from taking kids in high school and kind of funneling them into the colleges and things like that. Everybody eats, everybody's beak gets wet. I don't know how that works in reality, but these are the kind of talking points as we really start to move into the home stretch as far as, are we going to have a strike? And even if we don't, what is baseball structure going to look like in this next interval? Yeah, interesting stuff. Rinse, wash, and repeat on this one. Mike Trout, yes, that Mike Trout, headed back to the DL once again. Boy, Mickey Mantle without the hardware. People will say, "Hey, come on, man, Trout's good," but we're talking about the Mick here. Nonetheless, really unfortunate as far as how good this guy is, and just cannot overcome the injury bug. Okay. Power rankings, which take this with a grain of salt because these are the power rankings that were released earlier in the week. But I can tell you that we have the Dodgers overtaking the Braves, the Brewers at 3, I believe. Yeah, the Yankees at 4 and the Rays at 5. But who's cooking right now? It's those Yankees. At least when I made the bullet point, they had been 8 out of 10 in their last 10, leading the AL East. The flip side of you ain't so hot right now would be their longtime rivals, the Bean Eaters, up there in the aforementioned Boston, who, unlike the Yankees, did the inverse and went 2-8 in their last 10. And guess what? They have a nice chair in the AL East cellar. Bean Eaters not too happy right now, considering what happened with the Celtics. Having to watch the Knicks cabbage patch and the Red Sox not bringing them any love either. Okay, I see the Dodgers just got 2 out of 3. Even from the Orioles took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. Although the Dodgers had a heroic comeback, got their butts kicked today. My thing is the Dodgers have been kind of mid lately, as they tend to do this time of year. What I want to know is they are mid, and they still lead the NL West by 8 or 9 games. So what the hell are the Padres and D-backs doing? We know the Giants are just terrible and the Rockies, yeah, whatever. But the D-backs and the Padres, what are you doing? The Dodgers are mid and still have a very comfortable lead. I do like the White Sox, at least, in the beginning of the week. They were like 7-3 at one point. They took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers before the Orioles. And, it wasn't that long ago. This was a very, very stinky diaper. Right now, they'd be leading the AL Central. Props. People were talking about them leaving the South Side. Ain't hearing no talk like that right now. Yeah. Okay. We talked about this on Aftershocks in the week, and this thing is really spread all over the place. You get the 4 Giants players who put religion over pride. And that morphed into the team, the Yorktown Revolution, basically forfeiting a game because they didn't want to wear pride jerseys. Remember I talked about the first 2 weeks of the month, how we were getting through this Pride Month without theatrics. Leave it to baseball to say, hold my beer, hold my tequila shot. And now between the Giants and this team, the York Revolution, we've got full-blown controversies, condemnations, people flexing. There's definitely both sides to this particular coin, at least as far as the Foxhole is concerned. And this is something we've been talking about in the 6 years that we've had this platform. Right? It's just, you can't get through this month without it. It's interesting as we've talked about how some leagues have gone away from a lot of signage and social media presence. Throw Juneteenth in that as well in terms of how teams decided to either represent or not, and you're going to have somebody triggered. I think MLB may be out of its lane condemning the players. I get the whole inclusive message that they were trying to push, but at the same time, if this is not true jam, forcing it on people is only going to cause more theatrics like this. It's not rocket science we're talking about here. Okay, lastly, before we get out of here, on this segment at least, let's hop on Let's hop on the Zamboni and take a ride around the ice rink of life and shout out to those Canes. I mentioned this the other day on Aftershocks and the implications for Portland, possibly, but did not really give Carolina the love it deserved as they win their second Stanley Cup. And they sit there and say, we don't get enough love for being a sports hub. And they don't. But then again, that will require the Panthers and the Bobcats, Hornets, whatever they are now, to comply as well. But hey, you've got Bill Belichick and Jordan down there. But nonetheless, props to the Canes winning their second Stanley Cup and keeping the folks down there in the South smiling away. What are we doing winning hockey championships? Beautiful thing. And as we say, the Portland correlation there. I guess there's big talks coming up about that as far as the arena and the owner but we'll get to that when we get to the other side and talk some basketball, which is a great segue, by the way. So when we come back, we'll get some more basketball talk in, put a bow on the NBA season. Probably talk about the Queens because the Queens find a way to make their way into content. We'll see you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Let's talk a little hardwood. And there's a lot to talk about here. Bear with me here. We're still figuring things out here. All the props, especially when the iPad stand and the magnet doesn't want to cooperate. And I'm still supposed to be looking in the camera. Okay, let's talk what we call the NBA beat. Well, obviously, the Knicks raising their first banner since 1973. Obviously, that is going to dominate the NBA news. Obviously, the huge parade, Jalen Brunson being able to stick his middle finger and a few other things at Becky Hammon. We'll keep it nice, clean, and tight there, but you can imagine. And also, Wemby. We talked about that whole thing of trying to make Wemby a villain on Aftershocks. But now we get to sit back and watch the Knicks have their moment. And because they're likable and very deserving, and that even more so than when the Rangers won it the last time we had the World Cup here in '94. There's some similarities, but this is far, far bigger than that. And the Knicks are way more likable just because hockey isn't everybody's tea, whereas basketball, yeah, it's relatable, right? I just think it's funny, watching Gotham go nuts. I mean, obviously, it's easy to get on a high horse and condemn people for some of their shenanigans, and you always feel bad for anybody that got hurt seriously. You're not supposed to have that happen in a moment of celebration. But in general, we got through it. You always never want to see a not so likable person like Mr. Dolan end up on top, but this is the way the world works. I mean, I guess better him than Dan Snyder, I suppose. Although, if you ask me, I'd feel differently. But hey, I got my own biases. So what can I tell you about that? Of course, wouldn't be without controversy. Dolan and Mandani trading jabs, go figure. And what should be a glorious moment where we can put the nonsense away and just enjoy the next achievement, we get theatrics. Gee, who wouldn't have had that on your 2026 scorecard, right? I don't know. I mean, the big takeaway here, I think, is what does this mean for the rest of the league's front offices? And to me, it just reiterates that yes, we can mentality, right? Because people are looking around and seeing the Knicks, seeing the Bucks a couple of years ago, seeing Oklahoma City for that matter, and crap, Indiana doesn't have things go their way. It could have been them last year. And so I think people are getting themselves into a particular position where it's a reality. And I do think you're going to see some jockeying this summer that's going to reflect that. I think that's a wonderful thing for the league. It is. I know that one guy on ESPN, I talked about this on Aftershocks, where he was barking about the whole participation trophies thing that the Larry O'Brien trophy has been. I mean, now that I've had time for that to, I don't know, for the residue to like come down from the ceiling like condensation, and just like it's a stupider comment days later that we have parity. That's a horrible thing. That winning a championship, especially in the NBA, would ever be put on the same level as a participation trophy. British friggin' petroleum, dog. Okay. What else do we have? We have Trae Young. Yeah, that Trae Young, formerly of Atlanta, in Washington, had a $49 million option on the table. Walks away from it. I don't know if he's going to cut a better deal with the Wiz, which I doubt in their youth movement. So where does he land? Another intriguing storyline for us to be looking forward to in the months to come. The aforementioned Blazers lose their coach. I think I talked about that in Aftershocks. Thiago Splitter, great move by the Bulls, saying, well, if you're going to sit here and twiddle your thumbs, Mr. D, we'll swoop in because we like what he did with the young Blazers. The Bulls looking to be relevant again. Great move there by that team. I think it's funny about Andre Iguodala. Yeah, that Iggy. Talking about how he still gets grief from people, even his kids do, because LeBron made that heroic block to preserve, what some people think is one of the greater NBA finals, if not of all time, definitely of this century. And he says people still bust his chops about it. I'm thinking, dude, you're like a 4-time champion and a Hall of Famer. You should just tell them to SMD. I mean, as far as giving you flack, that's just how I see it, anyways. Okay. Okay. All right, let's talk the ladies. Well, the big story here is the Queen and her court really melting down as the Indiana Fever lose back-to-back games to Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream. If there is not a bigger nightmare for Caitlin Clark fans, it is Angel Reese being able to get the win and flash that smile and be Bayou Barbie. Caitlin's shoe releases I talked about the other day, and I'll bring up here in a closer look in a minute. I mean, I gotta agree with the Sim Farm. This is not a good team. This is not a good product to watch when it comes to the Indiana Fever and all this that we were going to build the league around her. Not quite happening. WNBA, though, to expand to 50 games in 2027. Not sure what I feel about that yet. But if there's money to be made, it's going to be made. So 50 games coming on the horizon as far as the WNBA is concerned. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we got some more stuff to talk about when we get to a closer look. We're going to pause for a minute so we can move to a closer look. Make sure we're still doing this in order. We'll be back in a snap. Alrighty, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Kid Harlan here. Definitely under duress, trying to get the first video edition of Foxtrotting the Foxhole out there. Definitely a little bit more work involved than doing the aftershocks. But no, this has still been fun, and thanks for putting up with me, and we'll see how this goes moving forward, especially in the summer months as we're sitting here under the bright studio lights. Okay, let's do our segment of the Foxtrotting and the Foxhole podcast, where we opinionate, analyze, talk a little trash, a closer look. Let's circle back to this whole thing with the shoe wars. And that's the whole thing with Caitlin Clark finally getting her signature shoe in year 3. And of course, if you listen to the Clarkites, yes, the cult that I say, and that's the content creators, who bless their heart, because if it wasn't for them, we really wouldn't know the intricate side of what's truly happening in the WNBA. Give them that. But these guys in their crusade for their queen to basically be the greatest thing that walked the earth in the 21st century, it is beyond nauseating. And I don't know. When you get the race baiters and hustlers involved, basically saying, if Caitlyn got her shoe before Aja Wilson did, the angry black lesbians would have set this country on fire. Well, I do think there's a lot of ridiculousness in that conversation. There has to be something said about that. Now, I get it out of Iowa. She didn't need it, even though there was a lot of popularity and whatever reason why, which I'm still trying to figure out, from somebody who did not win a chip at Iowa, but yet we treat her like she is the female Moses and Jesus walking on the water and parting the Red Sea simultaneously. And I got nothing against the Ivory Queen. Man, right? Got no problems. I think she's a nice person. She's a hell of a basketball player, but this cult surrounding her is absolutely ridiculous. And this idea that there's sabotage and, well, she should just leave the WNBA and Nike is committing suicide by not having that shoe out there. Now, outside of all you simps and fanboys, who's really going to be clamoring to wear a Caitlin Clark shoe? A couple of years ago, a couple now. It's going to sell well because you shoe nerds have to have everything. But this idea that Nike committed some kind of business suicide, come on, y'all. Stop it with this nonsense. Stop it with the sabotage thing that's going on with her and Stephanie White and all this other stuff. Stop it. Did you all just think these women who are very competitive were just going to roll over? I've said this a million times, and it's playing out. But yet, like this Carmelo Anthony thing, nobody wants to listen to the truth. Well, not no one, but the folks who were drinking the Jonestown Kool-Aid as far as thinking that guy did that in self-defense. Yeah, Jasmine Crockett, I'm looking at you. Anyway, yeah. See, lost my train of thought here. But the thing is when it comes to this shoe thing, I think it's more smoke than an actual fire. The conspiracy thing. I think the WNBA just needs to continue to build on its momentum. I think the Clarkites are going to have to realize that even if she is the best player, it's going to be about all the ladies and not just one, in spite of what you folks who have your girl next door fantasy might think. Just saying. Okay. Let me switch back to this college bill, sports bill that's going to be in front of Congress, and why I think it's so important. I've talked about this, and I'll probably talk about it 100 more times as long as I'm doing this. But I just thought about how this Sorsby thing sort of exacerbates that whole, the emperor has no clothes kind of thing. And how ridiculous we allowed this to get. And I say we because this is collective. And as I spoke earlier about Texas Rec, I mean, you basically put on, if you ever seen the corridor to LA where the hoes are playing their trade. This is basically what the brass at Texas Tech basically did in front of all of us. It says, we don't care when it comes to our lust for a natty. I like what friend of the show, Andy G, over there next door at Eagles Nest 1 said. That what all these people don't understand, that the pursuit of a natty has lost its luster. You can win a natty in this era, and nobody's going to put an asterisk next to it, but it sure feels that way from the way it used to be when things used to be under the board and not so blatant. And well, gee, I can sit there and gamble, or I can sit there and try to get 4 or 5 more years of eligibility because I know some judge that's affiliated with my school will ride with me. And maybe at some point, the conference or the NCAA, the NCAA itself won't put up a fight. Man. So, yeah. I don't know, man. It is an interesting road that we've been on in the last 6 years. And I really hope that we haven't experienced irreparable damage from what we've seen in this Sorsby case. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that the parties that be still want to go into court and figure this out. And I think this is why the Ted Cruz, Maria Cantwell bill, I think you go back in the committee and add some more teeth to it. I mean, I do think there are enough adults out there, especially if you can find a way to, as I've said many times already, curtail the ambulance chasers or the Ben Crumps of the college football world who have probably got their clerks and interns working 24/7. What kind of cockamamie scheme can we come up with to get more eligibility for these guys? Because every time we win, that's more clients, which means more money, more money, more money for us, sort of thing. Wow. Yeah. I just think we need those guardrails. I said it from day one. I'm going to keep pushing it. I got my fingers crossed as far as something can really happen here. And I know there's going to be pushback from the culture. Oh, you're just trying to keep these young men down, even though they're putting their lives on the line and putting their health and their futures. And as we always say in the Foxhole, is somebody putting a gun to your head and making you play college sports? No, they're not. And you're getting paid. But yet you can be a dumbass and gamble and do the things you're not supposed to for the amount of time you're playing college sports, where you're getting bags of cash, great health care. They're even going to give you health care afterwards and an opportunity to finish your degree after your playing days are done. And you're getting paid. But yet you can't toe the line for 4 or 5 years. Well, cry me a friggin' river in terms of anybody from the culture that talks about this as oppressive and a way for the man to keep these young men and women down. British friggin' petroleum times 29 as far as that goes. Okay, folks, when we return, we will come back with the NFL report and some TMZA time and get you out of here on our 319th voyage. Alrighty, welcome back to the Foxhole. One more time around the bend for episode 319, the penultimate episode of season 10, as we're coming to you now in video and audio on all platforms from FTINFX Media. Boogie down B-Town. Okay, so let's get you out of here. Let's start it out with the NFL report. Man, what is going on down there in Tampa, Florida? We know what a dumpster fire the Buccaneers into 2025. We know that the organization, after wanting to not only smoke the Baker Bowl, wanted to open its own dispensary selling products for the Baker Bowl. So my question is now, to smoke the Baker Bowl or to move on from the Baker Bowl? Ooh, Nelly, that is a tough one. But okay, I'm going to give it to you the way the Foxhole sees it. And I say, even if he balls out in 2027, there is or 2026, excuse me, there is enough data to say you can be cool with putting the Baker Bowl down and going to a different dispensary looking for different varieties moving forward. I mean, if you want to continue to smoke the Baker Bowl, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if it were me, knowing what you saw last year and the glimpses that you have seen when he was at the top of his game, what he did in Cleveland, yada, yada, yada. Hell, you lost to JD5. You were the higher seed. So, yeah, if I'm Tampa and anything short of being in the conference championship game, I would say Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield, sayonara. That's just me. Okay. Let's have some real talk about Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers. Still at odds. I know the Commanders Nation. I wish we would just forget that guy ever existed, but we're going to wait this out because, oh my God, I got to play with Jaden Daniels and it's going to be so good. Because you can see this all the way to Winnemucca, Nevada. What a disaster this is going to be. And if it's not, great, but good grief. This is just bad for everybody involved, especially dealing with this fruitcake. I know we have to take a pause for mental health awareness, but F it when it comes to this dude and the $27 million he walked away from on a team, the last time I checked, probably has a better chance of winning the Super Bowl than the Commanders do right now. I don't know, man. I just don't get it. Everything involved in this. Speaking of the Niners, I don't know about the validity of it because it came from Coach JB and Big Smitty's show. I think this was on Friday. That the 49ers and the Raiders were talking where Max Crosby would end up in San Francisco or Santa Clara. But that would be big for the 49ers. And there was an NFC guy that kind of makes me shake in my boots a little bit. But yeah. But because I saw it on Coach JB and Big Smitty and haven't heard anybody else talking about it, he's just talking. He's been right on some things before, but since I am from Missouri, I'll believe that one when I see it. Okay, speaking of the 49ers, in our periodic crystal balls we do, looking into the crystal ball ahead of the 2026 season, let's take a look at the 49ers. Right? They're a team worth looking at. Incredible offseason in terms of the nonsense with the power plant and the conspiracy theories that go along there. Kyle Shanahan being extremely testy of just about anything. Same thing with John Lynch. This whole thing with Ayuk, whatever. Did you pay Brock Purdy too much money? Or guys like Kittle and other people a little too long in the tooth like Trent Williams? Or do you have one more good run in you, in spite of the fact that the Rams just got Myles Garrett and the Seahawks just won the damn Super Bowl? I know, that's a lot to chew on when it comes to the 49ers. So looking into the crystal ball for them, I don't think it's a take a step back for them. I think they're very gritty and competitive, but I still have to wonder how they fit in when the Rams and Seahawks are clearly better right now. Younger, faster, more athletic, and if the Rams get Aaron Donald back, geez. So yes, I can see them being between 10 and 12 wins, and depending on how their draw is, making an okay run at the playoffs. But I don't know if they are better than the Seahawks and Rams at this point, who happen to be in their same division. Not to mention quite a few other young Lions, not the Detroit Lions, but young Lions that are maturing in the National Football Conference. So the Super Bowl window may be closing for them. If it's going to happen, I think it has to be this year. I just think the competition might be too stiff. And you got Joey Cool. That Joey Cool. Joey Burrow of the Niners saying the vibe in minicamp with his Bengals team gives him LSU 2019 vibes. Okay. He was pretty successful there. And he likes to talk. Because after all, he's one of those guys in the quarterback club that hasn't delivered yet. So you got to put something out there to tell people you still think you are elite. So, crystal ball number 2, the Bengals. A team that went to the Super Bowl early in this decade, lost to the aforementioned Rams. Where do they stand? Well, one, I don't think their division is as formidable as it once was. The Ravens with a new coach, the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, and the Browns, well, hey, he may lead them to the promised land, but I'm from Missouri. He's got to show me that before I think the Browns are about anything. So, but it's been this way for Joey Cool and the Bengals for a while. And so my thought would be this with them, looking into my crystal ball. I'm thinking, unfortunately for them, this is another disappointing, another disappointing year. Look, Joey Cool's trying to do the voodoo on me and make me cough. But I'm saying 7-10. I think they're a disappointment again. And this is where he tries to find his way out of Cincinnati. Food for thought there. Okay. Sean Payton signs a 5-year deal to remain in Denver. Legacy chasing. If that one guy's a bag chaser, Sean Payton is legacy chasing. Legacy chasing, yo. And why not? To get another ring, especially with another club, the cachet that carries. You go back into the booth and just be that dude. But of course, I think he's become a jerk along the way, so I, for one, ain't rooting for any of that. Okay? Over in D.C., by quarter of the conversation, my man JD5 says he is still adjusting to David Blau's new system that's being installed in the nation's capital. Not a shock there. My thing with that, homie, can you stay healthy? And are you bulking up and taking your protein shakes so I don't have to worry about you every time you take the field getting broken in half? But I do like that he's putting in the work, and I know that he's the kind of guy who's always going to put in the work. Speaking of putting in the work, over in Las Vegas, the word is Mr. Mendoza, his teammates are all liking his work ethic, liking the attitude that he's bringing to the table, bringing the lunch pail and the hard hat. Very good first impression as far as his new teammates are concerned. looking forward to watching how that story plays out in year one, even though Kirk Cousins will probably start in the QB1 spot when this all begins in Las Vegas. But anything to make Las Vegas worth paying attention to as opposed to the sticky diaper that they've been for quite some time, going back deep into the Oakland years. Oakland 2.0, that is. Okay, folks, even on a Sunday night, it's been a long time getting this all together. Trucks in the foundry pulled up on Friday, told them to come back, make another batch. They came today because they knew I was going to be doing video, so they've made an extra special batch of the smelliest, I mean smelliest varieties. You know, the ones that come in stainless steel bowls, complimentary, regular and XL sizes. If you know the Wire episode, the Tommy Carcetti era, there you go. But we're talking about stainless steel bowls where they're corroding. These varieties are so smelly. It's TMCA time in the Foxhole. That's right, where we hand out these bowls for those whose actions during the week have earned that distinction, or as we like to say, them being who they be. Well, let's start out with a 5-strip, 5XLs for this Josh Hockett character, the UFC guy that called Michelle Obama a man. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent. There is no place for that kind of nonsense. Not even if you're content before everything. No need to go there. And shame on any of you in power that didn't condemn that. You all get complimentaries. And a 5-strip for him, I think a 5-strip for the Hall of Shame, because there's just no place for that. In the same way, there's no place for you, certain people in the sports world to say things about Melania. Leave the wives out of it. All right. Even though he should probably get kudos, but come on, man. I got to give an XL to the Spurs fan, the San Antonio Spurs, after they lost to the Knicks, trying to fight everyone. Man, that's the way you end up in traction, bro. What are you thinking? Man, what are you thinking with that kind of nonsense, man? Man, okay. Complimentaries and at least 3 XLs for the Hall of Shame. The fools that were brawling on the Capitol lawn during Trump's UFC event. Dogettes. The brawling is going on in the octagon. There ain't no reason for you to get in the ground and end up in the ER acting a fool. What the heck were you all thinking? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give James Harden an XL for picking up a gun charge when there's just, at this point in time, what are you getting busted on a stupid beef like that, bro? Come on. I've got to give 2 XLs to Wemby for just being a baby. Anytime you lose in 5 games and you say you're the better team, yeah, no. And lastly, complimentaries all around and 2 XLs for the Hall of Shame for Knicks fans fighting each other at the parade. Y'all ain't won in 53 years. You should be the happiest moment of your lives. You should all be out making whoopee, drinking, going to the dispo, doing things I can't mention on here. But no, you fools have to decide you want to get in the octagon. Forget the brawl on the lawn. We're going to do it at the championship parade kind of nonsense. Really? All right, folks. We've reached the finish line. Thanks for putting up with me on this fine Sunday. You know, we're working on, as I say, I'm sitting here trying to reach. We're working on trying to get this thing all together. Even though nothing wants to cooperate all of a sudden. But anyway, keep it real, keep it clean and tight. Aftershocks, I'll probably do, since I got this out late, I'll probably do Aftershocks on Wednesday. I'm cooking up some stuff with the scene, cooking up some stuff here. I don't know whether this is going to be Friday or Saturday yet, as far as when we're doing this, how we're going to, moving forward. I've got some ideas, but, we're still trying to suss this stuff out as far as that goes. So be patient with this. As always, Aftershocks midweek, this later in the week, 6 to 8 days. We apologize for getting this out there so late this week. As always, stay safe, stay sane. Avoid the bracelets because we ain't got time for that as it's summertime now. Enjoy good food and drink with the peeps. And we'll see you when we see you. In the meantime, keep it clean, keep it tight, keep it real.